Okay, so again, welcome to May the Force Be With You, a session about Comic Cons in your library. I'd like to introduce today's presenters, Patricia Girard and Cindy Schutz, and they are for the White Oak Library District in Romeo, Illinois, and I'm going to turn things over to them so they can get started and tell you a little bit more about themselves.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for that introduction. My co-presenter, Cindy Schutz, and I are delighted to be here to talk to you about the White Oak Library District's Comic and Fandom Com. It is called Comicopolis, and it is a yearly event that started in 2015. It's held at our Lockport branch. Lockport is a small city in Illinois, about 35 miles outside of the city of Chicago. It was held this last July, and that was the 8th year for this event. We took off during COVID in 2020 and 2021. And Comicopolis is considered to be one of the biggest and best library cons in the Chicagoland area. So we are very excited to share our journey and our insights with you. And I will advance that slide. Cindy.
All right, so hi, I'm Cindy. So where do you start when you're doing a library Comic-Con? You want to host a library con, but you've never done it before. Well, we're going to help you show you that to you. And one good thing is to have people to help you give guidance.
So that's Cindy and I, and this will also be the last slide of our presentation. And we would love for you, I want to emphasize that, we'd love for you to get in touch with us after the presentation, or maybe months from now when you actually maybe determine that you will be doing a library con. The Comicopolis and library cons are very close to both of our hearts, and we'd like to help out as much as possible.
Okay, so we're going to kind of go over this basic structure. First, we're going to talk about the history. Then we're going to talk about our partners. And then we're going to talk about the event. What are the highlights of Comicopolis? What do we do? We're going to talk about how it is a very kid-centric program. We try to make sure we have stuff for the kids and the teens, and we try to make sure it's very family oriented. We also want to talk about our marketing, and of course why it's important to have wrapping up at the end.
Okay, the history of how it all began. So it began really sort of by accident, I have to admit. It began because the library was attending a community partner meeting, a meeting with community partners to discuss how the library would fit into the citywide initiative called the Summer Art Series. Now, the Summer Art Series had been created by the mayor and his wife in the city of Lockport. We are not a city library, we're a district library. This Summer Art Series had been created the year before to kind of promote the arts in Lockport, to reinvigorate Lockport, which was sort of a town on the decline, like many small towns. This happens to many small towns. So anyhow, I had attended the meeting with the thought of making sure that everyone at the Summer Arts Series would at least know what our theme for the following year, our summer reading program theme, was going to be. I thought that was really important, and I was excited about how that might mesh with some of the stuff that the Summer Arts Series was doing. And our theme was going to be Every Hero Has a Story. So really perfect. Now, the summer before, we had already partnered with the Summer Art Series in a small way. They had done a steampunk art contest, and we had shown the artwork at the library. We had also partnered with a brand new group called the Artists Guild of Lockport and gave them meeting space at the library. And we also partnered with sort of a community theater group that had just started. We held auditions and we actually sponsored their very first show. They've now gone on to be an independent community theater group and a very successful one. So we had proven ourselves already, we've proven ourselves to be good partners. And I can't emphasize enough that libraries make great partners. You know, we employ smart and creative people, and we have great public spaces, and we have great reputations for fairness and equity and diversity, right? So again, at that meeting, I really had the idea of just promoting summer reading, hoping that that theme could be somehow incorporated. And I'd also been kicking around the idea of having a graphic novel author fair at the library. And then during discussions and brainstorming about what summer arts were going to look like in Lockport, someone mentioned, I think a member of the Artists Guild, asked me if the library might consider putting together a mini Comic-Con. Oh, I thought that was a great idea, even though I didn't know anything about Comic-Cons really. And I thought that staff and administrators would love that idea too. Cindy, did they love it?
I was a little bit nervous. As many of you know, if you're the only teen or youth services librarian at a branch, you know that a lot of things will often fall on you. So I think we were all a little bit nervous because we had a meeting with the children's services and the teen librarians. And at that point, we had 3 branches, but only 2 teen librarians for all 3 branches. So we were a little bit nervous. But after talking with Pat and our managers, we realized that the management team was all in. And they were going to help provide guidance and kind of do some of the tasks that I did not want to do. Well, some of the less creative and more busy, the paperwork, the stuff that isn't as interesting to me. And we had so many enthusiastic staff members at that time. And we were really lucky because our management did not micromanage us. They let us have a good time figuring out what this Comic-Con could look like. That's Katie. She loves a good cosplay. She actually does Ren Fair. And our staff really felt empowered by our management when we did this. So we would have brainstorming sessions, and it would be people from all levels in this area. We'd promote ideas. So we already had the idea to tie it to summer reading. We had our Comic-Con in July, so it'd be at the end after summer reading. We already had a youth children's finishers party, but this would be after that at the time. We wanted to have big ideas. We would have staff and management meetings. We'd have breakout sessions where we'd focus on different aspects that we could improve or do. I was on cosplay committee. I was on swag bag committee. I was on a lot more committees than I am currently now because we have a little bit of a bigger staff than we did at that point. And this is one thing that Pat always made sure of that was so helpful, is we had note takers and timekeepers so we keep on track, because we've all been in a library meeting that's gone on a little bit too long.
All right. So the event. I'm going to talk about the event and what it looked like in 2015. And Cindy will then explain how it has emerged into a much larger event and what it looked like last year. So we're gonna focus on those 2 events. So year number 1, 2015, we had to get artists and vendors, right? And in no way were we going to charge a fee for a table. Like, that is pretty typical for a Comic-Con, and we could have made a little money, much needed money, for this event, but we decided not to, and that was a good choice. We did not charge for tables in 2015 or 2016. We gathered together 30 local artists and vendors, largely with the help of a comic book store that was it is located 1 block away from our branch. Very lucky to have Amazing Fantasy right in town, and the owner who was willing to work with us. So many of the comic artists that first year were personally known to the owner of the comic book store because he had them at his comic book store for things. Also, Artists Guild of Lockport knew people as well. And like I said, we had already kind of partnered with them. So that was how we got our first artists and vendors together. The budget that our library director eked out of our programming budget was $4,000. And we were able to do face painting. We sponsored a cosplay contest. We had 1 food truck. We held the entire event inside our library building, which is not a large library building. It's just under 20,000 square feet, while we stayed open to the public. We have stayed open.
It's actually the smallest of our 3 branches.
It is the smallest, but it is in the community that would most support this type of thing, right? We had kids crafts and swag bags and a comic drawing workshop and a photo booth. Those were the main things, that we did. And we were very surprised after our 6-hour event, and we kind of looked around and counted the number of people, and we had an attendance of 800. That was way more than anything we could have ever imagined. And what did we spend our budget on? Oh, we spent our budget on marketing for sure. I think it's a very important aspect, and you need to do as much as you can to market this in all different ways. We'll talk about marketing later, both social media marketing and more traditional ways as well. I will advance this slide, and Cindy can tell you about these pictures that came from 2015.
So you see that we have our photo booth. This was our first photo booth. You can see it's a low-tech photo booth we made ourselves. That year we got our digital camera and we got the printer to go along with it. So we were able to use that for that event. We've moved on to a more higher tech one. We have the Lego Kid, which was, I think, all of our favorite cosplays that day in the cosplay contest. We have costumers with a cos in the middle. That's the Wolverine. They're a charity group that does cosplay for people who need it. We had the police show up, so we were a little bit nervous they would shut us down because we had a lot more people in the library than we were expecting, but they did not, and they just wanted to get in on it. We also had, if you see the zombie below, the zombie army, this was their first time at our library Comic-Con. While they have changed how they do it, they'd had a couple zombies and a little sign talking about their Hell's Gate haunted house. Okay. So year 8. And so it's this year, what we did was we had a fee of $45 for 1 table inside and 2 tables outside. And so it is good for the people who like indoors and air conditioning to have an option for themselves. They can pay for the $45 1 table or the outdoor 2 tables. We had a number of artists and vendors. This was our highest amount yet that we were able to fit in, was 64. And now, since we're outside of the library, we're in our parking lot, we're in the street. We close off the street. The city helps us. They bring in porta potties. They bring in picnic tables. And a lot of their donations are things for the event is from the city. So they pay for the tents, which is probably our biggest expense that we have total. Then they also had donations and sponsorships from local businesses and they help us get those as well. And we had a board member even help us this year with some sponsorships of certain things. The library budget was $8,000. And I know this seems like a lot of money. You can do these events with much less money. I promise you, you can do it with much less money. But we had it inside and out. We had 2 food trucks. We kept the swag bags. Originally, we had 200 swag bags because we thought we'd be lucky to get 200 people. Now we do a solid for $500 bags every year, and that works out really well. And so,
and Cindy, let me just interject that, yes, that whole outdoor space has become sort of like a summer festival type of look, right? Because we have these ginormous tents and, music outdoors, and it's not, and I think that's where the cost comes in, is, the providing of these very large tents, but it also makes it seem like it's like a main attraction in downtown Lockport, which it has become. So I think that's very important, the look and the feel of it. But go on.
Yeah, this year we had over 2,000 people come. We have face painting. We have either staff-led or a professional comes. We have a cosplay contest. So we had that our first year, but a couple years later, we realized that we wanted to do a homemade category for teens and children and a homemade category for adults as well, because there are store-bought costumes and there are people who take time and make their own costumes. And so we wanted to recognize the homemade costumes and give them more of an avenue for the cosplay. We have a character artist, so that's super fun. We have a DeLorean. That's one of the cars that Pat was able to hook us up with when she was branch manager. And we had a bunch of other pop culture cars. We've had the Jurassic Park trucks. These are just people who have these cars in the community that have been built to look like the ones in these TV shows. And a lot of these people just honestly want to show them off to people. And they're proud of these cars. We have kids crafts. There's a ton of kids crafts you can buy on Oriental Trading, or you can make up your own. Kids crafts is one of the easier things. You just have to make sure you have them in bulk. We have a scavenger hunt that has had some different iterations. We try to make sure that they go to multiple vendors and exhibitors, just to make sure that they're not just coming in, grabbing their swag bag, and heading on out. This gives them an opportunity to win something. We also keep doing the comic drawing workshop. This year we had one just for kids, and it was done by a comic book writer who's very local. And it's actually, I think he was there at our first Comic-Con. A lot of our artists have stayed with us because we have such a good reputation. And in fact, I know that Sam Poynton, she is one of our older presenters, exhibitors. She now has been an inkist for a graphic novel that just published, and we have 2 who they're basically the first time was called the Saturn Sisters, and they just had a picture book come out. So it's really great tracking the careers of these people that we have been working with for years. A video game truck is really fun, and this is a great thing to have. A lot of places you can just rent them, and so that's where some of the money goes, is we rent a video game truck. We have a game gallery, so that's kind of confusing what that is. We've done many iterations of the game gallery. We've had outdoor games, we've had indoor games. Well, this year we had a lot of different types of games, and a lot of them, if you know anything about the Midwest or Chicagoland area, we always have some sort of form of something called the bozo buckets, which is where you toss in a bean bag and you have to make sure you can get into each continuing bucket. It's a classic. We also had a really cool Mario games that was made by one of our local librarians, Storm. They did an amazing job. And this year we transformed our children's library space in Lockport to the Bat Cave. So we made it kind of Batman themed. We have the School of Rock, which is a school that teaches teenagers how to play rock music and how to sing. And they are amazing. And I think this year was our best year of performances. They were so good. But every year it's an amazing show. And this is a great way to get people to have their parents come as well, because people want to see their friends perform. People want to see their kids perform. And that's a great way to get more people, is have someone perform that's a kid or a teen and some part of it, and more people will come. Now, this year was new. We had Comicopolis After Hours. That wasn't run by us, but the city has decided that our event is so successful that they are going to have an after hours event. And so that had more grown up art, and it took place in a bar. It was super fun from what I saw. I was just too tired to go since I'd been up since 6 in the morning. But this year we have, again, the Zombie Army. This year they have a truck, and they've been doing the truck for the last few years, and it's a great way. It advertises the Hell's Gate Haunted House, and they always bring different zombie fun activities. Okay. I think this is cosplay. I can't see the slide yet.
Okay, this is various pictures from 2024, including the DeLorean in the lower left. Can you see it, Cindy?
Yes, it popped up finally. I was like, what? I'm like,
Okay.
What slide is this? All right, so you can see we had the city bring us a giant Superman statue that someone had made so that we could borrow it. One of our branch managers, Evangeline, is next to it. You can see the lanyards, and I think the lanyards are something that I recommend. Even if you're getting cheaper lanyards, we get ours custom. Having a lanyard and a card that says that what the event is and the year makes it feel like a real con. That is something that really adds into the experience. You can see that we had School of Rock, and this year they had their own part of the tent where they were teaching kids drumming, music skills. You can see the Zombie Army is the giant dartboard, basically, that they had. The video game truck, and of course our DeLorean. So these are some of the things we had this year. All right, so this is really important because we did have an incident our first year. Unwanted touching, and we did have to send someone home because of that. So we had the signs that said cosplay is not consent already, but I think having a cosplay policy in place and having more signs about how cosplay is not consent is important. So we try to make sure we have signs that say keep your hands to yourself, ask before taking photos with other attendees, respect people's rights to say no, and we want people to be respectful, be cool, and be kind. And this year was our first year with a weapons policy. We noticed last year that someone had brought a gun that looked a little bit too realistic for our own comfort. So this year we created a policy. And so how we enforce that is, I think next year we're probably going to have a weapons check-in is my goal. But we do is when we give cosplayers their forms about the cosplay contest, we would tell them if their weapon is too realistic, we had to mark it off with orange tape so people would know that it is not a real weapon. And we would want to check to make sure there is no real weapons. More likely it's going to be a knife if someone tries to sneak in a real weapon. I haven't seen any real weapons, but there was one that was just really looked too real for my own comfort or any of the other staffs. So that's why we have a weapons policy now.
Find your partners. Well, I'm going to tell you all about our partners, and our partners are not necessarily going to be your partners, but we'll start with our partners to give you some idea. Of course, you already know that we partnered heavily with the City of Lockport Summer Art Series. We got very lucky there. We're also very lucky to have one of the largest haunted houses in all of Illinois called Hell's Gate Haunted House, right in
Number 3 in the country.
Number three in the country, right. And we have, of course, Amazing Fantasy Comic Book Store. So I would say those are our top 3 partners: Summer Art Series, Hell's Gate Haunted House, and Amazing Fantasy. Our friends of the library make money for the library, and of course, we depend on them for a lot of our big events. We have private donors. We have a group in Chicagoland area called Cosplayers with a Cause that have been coming out each year. I think Cindy mentioned them. We have a Thimbles quilting store just down the street in Lockport. They actually make unique embroidered badges or patches for the winners of the cosplay contest. That's kind of become a thing now. And I think we continue to give a cash prize to the winners. Isn't that right, Cindy?
It's a gift card. And this year we were able to get, for the homemade winners, I got donations from a publisher about cosplay sewing books.
Okay. We also have an art gallery in town. Go ahead.
Thimbles also helps provide us with people.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Remember, they had a sewing demonstration one year.
That's right. There was a specific person who they hooked us up with who knew a lot about sewing cosplay contests. And she has attended more than once, right? And done like a special presentation. We didn't talk a lot about our special presentations and panels, etc., but you can incorporate all of that every year into a Comic-Con. And we use a small meeting space inside our library, and we also use, I think, this stage outside of our library for these types of things.
Yeah, we keep the stage outside of the library in the street for adult presentations and adult and teen presentations, and now we're using just the kids room for kids presentations.
Right. And then lastly, Gallery 7 is an art gallery that we have in town, just a block away from us in another direction. And they have been great. They have photographers who are part of their organization who come out and photograph our entire event for us for free. And that's, just, a wonderful, perk. And it's getting like everybody involved. And that's what's so great about it. We're getting more and more of Lockport stakeholders and artists and vendors and stores involved every year. Now, I want to point out this picture in the lower left-hand corner. That's Cindy on the left with 2 children's librarians, and they are sitting at a table at C2E2, which is a very large Comic-Con held in downtown Chicago at McCormick Place. It's sort of on par with the New York City Comic-Con, wouldn't you say, Cindy?
Yeah, I would say it's much like the New York City Comic-Con, and it's actually done by the same company that does the New York Comic-Con. It's ReedPop. Right.
So how have we been able to attend C2E2 and have a table there every year, which would be mighty expensive? Well, our connection with the City of Lockport Summer Art Series also connects us to the Heritage Trail Convention and Visitors Bureau, which promotes tourism in our area. As this booth is about everything that goes on in Lockport. So you can see the backdrop. We have Comicopolis. We have Old Canal Days, which is a summer festival. And this one, I can't quite remember what this one was.
I think that was something about Gallery 7 art display.
Yes, I think so. And that changes. And also we have a spooky night out that the Women's Club does. So there's all of these big events that get marketed and advertised at C2E2. And we have been there every year. And we've had many staff who man the table. As a matter of fact, I think it's staffed about 90% over the 3 days by library staff people.
I think usually, and one person from Soren, which is our Native American indigenous local group.
Right. And it's been a wonderful place for us to market Comicopoulos. It typically takes place a few months before Comicopoulos. And it's also been a wonderful place for us to connect with local artists. And we've, we introduce ourselves, we walk around the floor, we show them pictures of Comicopoulos and encourage them to come. And we've gotten many new artists and vendors by attending C2E2. So again, that's been just a wonderful place for us to be. Now, your partners are going to be different than our partners, and maybe there'll be some similarities, but just things to think about. Think about your city government bodies and your local businesses, your artists and art societies, your schools and politicians and service clubs and scouts, and your library board members. Every community is unique. Ours was particularly unique and particularly well suited for something like Comicopoulos. And when you think about it, I am sure you will find your unique partners in your area. Kid-centric, Cindy.
Yes. So I call this kid-centric, no comics that have to be sold in a bag, because one year Pat called me into her office and was like, we have a vendor, but they say they sell their comics in a bag. And I said, I don't think that's for us.
No, it isn't.
We are a family-friendly con. So we wanted to make sure that everything would be more kids and teen-centric. So we have face painting. We have swag bags, and all of our swag bags are actually sorted by age. We don't want to give the kids and teens inappropriate content, so we make sure it's sorted by adult, teen, and children's. So
Cindy, maybe it's not even a matter of inappropriate, because we don't have anything, really inappropriate, but it's not age appropriate. Like they'll get something and go, what is this? This isn't interesting. Yeah, right.
And so we have 200 for adult, 100 for teen, and 200 for children. And I've lately been able to get some stuffed animals donated, and that has been going over very well. We have the game gallery, which I mentioned, that's outside, and that's a really popular thing. One of the things that goes over really well with the teens and the kids is the nerd card. So we have made this card where you can ask about a certain type of trivia that you're into. So let's say you love the Lord of the Rings. They can ask you a question about the Lord of the Rings, and if you get it right, you get the nerd card, and you get some bragging rights. And a lot of the kids and teens do this over and over again throughout the day because they love feeling smart. And it's kind of awesome to see that. We also have the photo booth. So this from our old way where we made it with our own backdrop, we have a digital photo booth now because we have a green screen, and we just change the date and the logo every year. Super fast and super easy, but the kids love getting their own picture each and every single year. We have the video game trailer, which is really one of the more appealing things for the teenagers who are there, because some of the stuff feels a little bit kiddie, but having elements that are good for teens helps make this more of an all-age program. We have also, again, the zombie army truck. The teens love the zombies. They love feeling like they're a part of this event. Okay. So you can see some of the stuff we have going on. My niece is in the pink shirt. That's Julia. This was when we had a different variation of the game gallery. A lot of you might just have these oversized games in your library, or you can even make oversized games. And that would be a great start to having a gaming gallery. We have Lisa up at the top, face painting. That's our circulation supervisor at Romeoville. We have a cosplayer, and we have one of the most adorable babies that has ever cosplayed as Belle with Beast. And you can see we have our vinyl sign, Comicopolis, at the library this Saturday, and it has the date. And if you look in the middle, you will see a mural that we get pretty much every year, done by one of the local Artist Guild members. They do this in chalk under a bridge, and it helps advertise for the library.
Marketing.
Okay.
How and where? Okay. Well, market everywhere you can is very important, right? Facebook posts and ads and social media and billboards and vinyl reusable banners. Don't put the dates on. Our e-newsletter. Pizza boxes, which is as simple as getting a half sheet flyer and taking it to your local pizza parlors and asking them to staple it to the top of the box when they deliver pizza or pizza's picked up. Mom magazines, of course, our website, the Comic-Con in downtown Chicago, outreach. Cindy, you take over from here with the outreach you do in summer reading.
All right, so I have to do summer reading visits at the schools every year. So I make sure I tell every student that I am talking to about Comicopolis. I make sure that if I'm going to a park party, I am talking about Comicopolis. I make sure if I'm going anywhere, I am talking about Comicopolis. I will talk about Comicopolis until I am blue in the face. I also drop off flyers at the mall. We do have a mall in Joliet. It's not in our district, but it's right by. So I will drop in and bring flyers to any of the businesses. This year I was really lucky. No business told me no. Usually I get a couple no's. Everyone took the flyers. I also post on social groups. So like if you are a member of mom groups on Facebook, residents, things to do, stuff for moms to do, stuff for families to do with their kids. All of these are great places to advertise your library programs. I also post on Reddit. There's a local group called Chicagoland Suburbs. I post everything that I can that I think will have appeal on that Reddit group. And I will say the Reddit has really worked out for me advertising ways, because we will have people come in or do events just from the Reddit. And of course, we have your traditional in-house marketing. Every person you see, you can hand them a flyer and talk to them about what's going on in the Comic-Con. Okay, so
Wrap up.
Oh, and this is Pat's favorite part, the wrap up.
Yeah, no, it's so important to wrap up. Do a wrap up meeting at least within a month after the event. For any large initiative you do, I think it's important to do a wrap up meeting and take notes. And not only take the notes, use the notes and read them at the very first meeting that you hold the next year. Brainstorm the dates and possible conflicts that you might have with other large events in the area. You know, if your neighboring town is holding its large summer fair at the same day, or festival, the same weekend that you're doing Comicopolis, that's not a good idea. You know, talk about what
avoid Lollapalooza. Because that's
we even
Chicago,
try to avoid Lollapalooza because then we don't have the School of Rock. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's all kinds of things to think about. So, you know, and Lollapalooza, of course, is our very large summer music festival in downtown Chicago. So don't be afraid to drop things or revamp them and you know, learn from your mistakes. And they're really not mistakes, just learn from your experiences. Get ready for next year. Find your timeline. Ours is at least 7 months out. So we start planning in January. We have monthly meetings. The last month, we usually have 2 meetings, 2 weeks apart. And that has, I think, worked out well. All right. And
Absolutely.
Questions, because I think we're right on time. Here's our final screen. So what questions do we have?
didn't have any questions in the chat, but if anyone wants to go ahead and throw up a question now, they're more than welcome to.
Okay.
I had a quick question. Have you noticed, Cindy or Patricia, that you've had any pushback from the community with an event this large or an event focused on cosplaying Comic-Con?
I have not been aware of any pushback from the community. As far as a large event, I think that the community is very, in general, very, very pleased to bring a large number of people into the downtown area. Our library is located really, well, partly residential, but we're right off Main Street. We're the old downtown. I think the only person who, there is one home right across from the library, and I think we impact them quite a bit. Other than that, no. And there hasn't been anything about the nature of cosplay at all that's ever come to my attention. How about you, Cindy? Have you heard about it at all? Or
no, I will say now we do warn a couple people in the neighborhood where their houses may be partially blocked off during the day as soon as we can when we have that date, so they know, to make it a less problematic a day for them. We try to tell people in the community if it might be a little bit hard for them to leave their houses.
Right. We do serve. Yes, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
Yeah, we do surveys, and we ask people for their feelings and their insights as well. And one of the best survey responses I ever got was from the very first Comicopolis, and the person said, "Wow, this was a real Comic-Con, not some cheesy impersonation of a Comic-Con." and I just love that. And I think, well, we've only become more and more of a real Comic-Con. Something I didn't, talk about is over the years, especially the middle years, we used some of our budget to pay some big comic artists from California and different places to come in. We flew them in, we gave them accommodations, and we thought this would really attract more people. And we found that that particular thing did not. It is really the local artists and vendors and the fun panels and the entertainment and the cosplay aspect of it. Cosplay is so important. I mean, what percentage of people do you think get dressed up, Cindy? At least 50% are walking around in costume?
At least 40, and the other ones are wearing like t-shirts related to Comic-Cons,
Right.
And I
Right.
think
Even if they're
the one thing that there was a special artist that we actually had people come wasn't so much who she was, it was her job, because she was a screen capture person for
right.
video games.
Right, motion capture actor. That's what she did. Right.
And people were interested in that as a career. And it's a great way for kids and teens to kind of learn about careers in the arts, I think, too. Yes,
for sure. Oh, and I never mentioned that our logo was created by our mayor. He is a graphic artist. So again, his interest in the arts is definitely, part of his career. And that of course has helped. Yes, that has helped tremendously.
Mayor Strite is one of our biggest supporters, and his wife Wendy, but we have gotten so much great feedback from them.
Okay, I see a question about, my library is pretty small. Do you have volunteers that help out? Okay, so the Lockport branch is pretty small too. I'd say at the time we did Comicopolis, we only had maybe 20 employees, and most of them were part-time. But we were part of a district, and it's always been a district project. We have employees from staff from all of our branches and administrators from all of our branches working together on this project. We have had volunteers. We have not had a lot of volunteers.
I think we use volunteers more the day of to help.
Yes, but not in the planning of it. That doesn't really work because it really does take that cohesive team that's very difficult to get, but there are certain specific jobs that volunteers could do. And on the day of Comicpolis, I think, in the past, we've had about 30 people working the event. I'm not sure if that's changed a lot in the last couple of years.
It's a lot more with the volunteers. I think this year we had volunteers help run the game gallery.
Oh, that would be
simple.
Good.
And then we have someone going around with water to make sure that you don't pass out. Always important.
It's hot. Yeah.
We have volunteers at the cosplay contest booth too, just helping us organize things.
Right. Oh, and Amber, thanks for posting our URL. There's a lot on our website about there's just a lot more on the website that we haven't even talked about. So I think that would be a great place to look. Or just one
later.
Maybe
I agree that you could work with multiple libraries.
See that, yeah.
And we've done events where we've partnered with other libraries too in the past.
Yes, yeah, we have, because we're part of a library system called Pinnacle, right? And there's 7 libraries in that system. So for other types of
and we've done an author fair before with them.
Right.
Okay. I just want to double check real quick. I had to step away for a quick second, but I wanted to make sure that you all saw David's question about offering anything specific with preschool or toddler attendees.
Oh, we didn't see that question.
Yeah. So we have kids crafts, and a lot of the kids crafts are pretty much lower level crafts. A lot of them would be what you would consider your story time level craft, I would say. Because we want to make sure they can do them, but they're also be kind of fast, because we can't have people staying there doing their crafts for very long because there's so many kids.
Right. The capes, remember the capes, Cindy? They were popular. Kids could do a cape with the plastic. Yeah, the capes. And then you have a bunch of little kids running around with capes, which is really adorable.
Oh, and we had the superhero bracelets that you could make out of toilet paper rolls.
Yeah, they're definitely, anything that that would work for preschoolers. You can definitely do it. It just has to be quick. Yeah.
Here's a great one: is if they can't sit for like a face painting, Miss Jane always has in her desk temporary tattoos that are superheroes, and we can always do a temporary tattoo station, and lots of little kids love those.
Yes. Yeah, that's another great idea.
Okay, so as we're winding down, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing yours and put up the slide that we have to, that we need to share about our
Thank you all for helping us by talking and asking questions. We love being asked questions, so be sure to email us.
Please, we want to hear from you. Yes, and thank you for having us.
Well, thank you so much for presenting. This was very interesting. We've had a couple of libraries dip their toe in Comic-Cons, and so I hope they got lots of great ideas and others were inspired to try one.
Okay. You take care. Have a great day.